Soldiers bet she would fail, but when the gate opened, the Apache woman made the fort go silent. The morning sun rose over the dusty plains like a bright coin thrown into the sky. The wind carried the smell of dry earth and old wood. The soldiers at the fort had already been awake for hours. They were used to early mornings, loud orders, and strict rules. The fort was a place of routine. Every day looked the same. That was how they liked it. But this morning felt different. A new figure appeared at the gate, and everyone stopped what they were doing. The soldiers had never seen anyone like her before. She was an Apache woman, dressed in simple clothes. Her hair was tied back neatly. She walked with calm steps, not hurried and not afraid. There was a quiet strength in her that made some of the soldiers feel uncomfortable. They didn't know what to do with someone who didn't look like them and didn't act like them. Some of the soldiers stared openly, others whispered behind their hands. The officer on duty watched her with a careful eye. He was a serious man, used to control and order. He did not like surprises. But he also knew that rules had to be followed. She had come to the fort for a reason, and now she was standing inside the walls. "Bring her in," the officer said. Two soldiers stepped forward and guided her into the courtyard. They did not touch her roughly. They did not need to. She was already walking calmly. She did not look around as if she was afraid. She did not try to run. She did not beg or complain. She just walked like someone who knew where she was going. The soldiers began to laugh quietly. Not loudly, but enough for the woman to notice. She kept her face still, but her eyes showed that she had heard them. One soldier, a young man with a loud voice and a bright smile, stepped closer. He was the kind of person who liked to feel important by making fun of others. "Hey," he said, "what are you doing here? This is a soldier's place. You sure you belong?" The Apache woman did not answer right away. She looked at him calmly. Her eyes were steady. She did not show anger. She did not show fear. She just looked. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was quiet but clear. "I am here to work," she said. "I am here to follow orders. I am here to do my duty." The young soldier laughed louder. The other soldiers joined in. Their laughter sounded mean, not friendly. They were not laughing at her because she was funny. They were laughing because they believed she would fail. They believed she did not belong. The officer stepped forward and raised his hand. The laughter stopped. He spoke with authority. "This is not a place for jokes," he said. "She will be given a task. She will follow the rules. If she does not, she will leave." The officer's words were calm, but they were also clear. He wanted to show everyone that the fort was still in charge. The soldiers nodded, but some of them still smiled in a quiet way. They were sure the woman would fail. The Apache woman was led to the center of the courtyard. She stood tall and waited. The soldiers gathered around her, forming a circle. They wanted to see what she would do. They wanted to see her fail. They wanted to see something that would make them feel powerful. One soldier whispered to another, "She can't even speak English properly. She won't understand the rules." Another soldier said, "She won't know how to open the gate. She won't know anything." They were wrong. But they did not know it yet. The officer spoke again. "You will be tested today. You will open the gate when I tell you. You will follow the correct steps. You will not rush. You will not make mistakes." The woman nodded. She did not say anything, but her eyes showed that she understood. The soldiers looked at each other and smirked. They had been waiting for a moment like this. They had been waiting to see someone else fail. It made them feel better about themselves. It made them feel strong. One of the older soldiers, a man with a thick beard and a rough voice, stepped forward. He looked at the woman with a mixture of curiosity and anger. "Do you know what this job is?" he asked. "Do you know what the gate means?" The woman looked at him and then at the gate. She spoke softly. "The gate is the entrance," she said. "It is the place where people come in and go out. It must be protected. It must be controlled." The older soldier laughed. "You talk like you know something," he said. "But you are just a woman. You are just an outsider. You don't know our ways." The woman's face did not change. She did not show fear or anger. She simply looked at him, and her eyes showed something the soldiers did not expect. They saw a calm confidence. They saw someone who had lived through hardship and learned to survive. They saw someone who knew what she was doing. The officer continued. "You will open the gate for a visitor later today. You will do it properly. You will not make a mistake." The soldiers began to whisper again. The bet began without words. They did not say it out loud at first, but they all knew what they were thinking. They were thinking the same thing. "She will fail. She cannot do this. She is not like us. She will embarrass herself." The young soldier with the loud voice stepped closer again. He looked at the woman and smiled. "We are going to bet," he said, almost to himself. "Who thinks she will fail?" Some of the soldiers laughed, and some nodded. They did not say the words out loud, but the meaning was clear. They were making fun of her behind her back. They were betting on her failure, like it was a game. The Apache woman heard them. She heard their whispers. She heard their laughter, but she did not show that she was affected. She did not look upset. She did not cry. She simply stood there, listening. Her calm face never changed. The officer saw this. He saw her calmness. He saw how she did not react. He felt something shift inside him. He was not sure what it was, but he felt that this woman might be stronger than they expected. The officer decided to test her more. He wanted to see if she truly understood the rules. He asked her, "Do you know how to open the gate?" The woman nodded. "Yes," she said. The soldiers laughed again. "How?" one of them asked. "You have never done it before?" The woman looked at the gate and spoke. "I have watched," she said. "I have learned." That answer made some of the soldiers feel uneasy. They did not like the idea that she had been watching them. They did not like the idea that she might know more than they thought. The officer gave her one more instruction. "You will open the gate when I say." "You will not open it before. You will not open it after. You will open it at the exact moment." The woman nodded again. Then the officer turned to the soldiers. He said, "This is a serious task. This is not a game. We will see if she can do it." The soldiers stood quietly, waiting for the moment. Some of them still smiled, but their smiles were smaller now. The woman's calm confidence was making them uncomfortable. They had expected her to panic. They had expected her to fail. They had expected her to make a mistake and prove them right. But she did not look like someone who would fail. She looked like someone who would succeed. The morning went on. The sun climbed higher in the sky. The soldiers went back to their duties, but they kept watching her. They wanted to see her fail. They wanted to see their bet become true. The Apache woman walked slowly around the gate area. She did not rush. She did not seem nervous. She touched the gate's metal parts carefully. as if she was checking them, and the soldiers who came in and out. She listened to the sounds. She watched the way the gate moved. She was learning. The soldiers watched her learning. They did not like it. It made them feel like she was taking their place. It made them feel like she might be better than them. And they did not want that. But the woman did not care what they thought. She was not there to win a bet. She was there to do her duty. She was there to prove something to herself. She was there to show that she belonged. As the day continued, the tension grew. The soldiers were waiting. The woman was calm. The officer was watching closely. And the gate stood silently, waiting for the moment when it would open. No one knew what would happen next. But everyone felt that something important was about to happen. The soldiers were sure of one thing. She would fail. The woman knew something else. She knew that she would not. The sun was high in the sky and the fort was busy with activity. Soldiers moved around, carrying supplies and cleaning the area. The sound of footsteps and talking filled the air. It seemed like an ordinary day, but the air felt heavy. Everyone was waiting for the moment when the gate would be opened. The Apache woman walked slowly near the gate, watching everything carefully. She did not rush. She did not look nervous. She was quiet and focused. The soldiers kept looking at her, trying to see if she would make a mistake. They wanted to see something wrong so they could laugh again. They wanted to feel powerful. The woman did not respond to their stares. She did not respond to their whispers. She had a job to do, and she was going to do it well. A few soldiers approached her, trying to talk to her. One of them asked, "Do you know what you are doing?" The woman looked at him and answered, "Yes." Another soldier asked, "Are you sure?" She nodded, "Yes." They were not satisfied. They did not like that she was calm. They wanted her to feel nervous. They wanted her to feel small. A young soldier stepped forward. He was the one who had laughed at her earlier. He spoke loudly so everyone could hear. "If you fail, it will be fun," he said. "We will have a good laugh." The woman looked at him without anger. She simply said, "I am not here to make you laugh. I am here to do my duty." The young soldier did not like her answer. He did not like the fact that she was not afraid. He tried to say something else, but he stopped. He realized that his words were not working. She was not reacting. She was not showing emotion. The officer watched the situation quietly. He noticed how the soldiers were trying to provoke her. He also noticed how she stayed calm. He began to think that she might be stronger than he expected. He did not want to admit it, but he was impressed. The day moved slowly. Time felt heavy. The sun began to move toward the west. The fort was quiet in some areas, but the gate area was full of tension. Everyone was waiting. The woman continued to watch the gate. She observed how the guards opened it for different people. She noticed how the gate needed to be opened slowly so it would not make too much noise. She noticed the way the gate latch worked. She noticed the timing. She was learning everything carefully. A soldier approached the gate and began to open it. The woman watched him. She watched his hands, his movements, and the way he pulled the gate. She watched how he made sure it was safe. She watched how he checked the latch. The soldiers around her laughed quietly. They thought she would not understand. They thought she would not be able to open it correctly. They thought she would be clumsy. But she did not care. She was focused. The officer called out, "Attention!" Everyone turned toward him. The soldiers stood straight. The woman stood straight too. The officer spoke in a serious voice. "A visitor will arrive soon," he said. "The gate must be opened at the right time. The gate must be opened properly. We will test her." The soldiers whispered again. They were excited. They were ready to see her fail. The woman listened carefully. She did not show fear. She did not show excitement. She only listened. The officer continued, "You will open the gate when I say. Do not open it early. Do not open it late. If you make a mistake, you will be punished." The woman nodded. She understood the rule. Ah, she was ready. The soldiers began to move closer. They wanted to be near the gate when she opened it. They wanted to see everything. They wanted to catch her mistake. The woman walked to the gate and stood beside it. She touched the metal latch with her fingers. It was cold. She felt the texture. She felt the weight of the gate. She felt the responsibility. The soldiers watched her closely. Their eyes were sharp. They were looking for the smallest error. They wanted to see her fail. The woman took a deep breath. She closed her eyes for a moment. She remembered the words of her family. She remembered the lessons she learned. She remembered the strength she had inside. She opened her eyes again. She was ready. The visitor arrived. Everyone turned their heads. The visitor was a man in a fine uniform. He looked important. He was serious and calm. He walked toward the gate with his guard beside him. The soldiers watched the visitor. They were excited. They wanted to see what would happen. The visitor stopped near the gate and waited. The officer stepped forward and said, "Open the gate." The woman moved. She stepped forward with calm steps. She reached the latch. She pulled it gently. The gate moved a little. It did not make a loud sound. It moved smoothly. The soldiers looked surprised. They expected a loud noise or a struggle, but the gate moved quietly, like it was meant to move that way. The woman continued to open the gate. She moved slowly and carefully. She made sure the gate did not shake. She made sure it did not hit the ground. She made sure it opened fully. The visitor walked through the gate. He looked at the woman. He did not say anything yet. He simply walked through. The soldiers stood silently. They were shocked. They had expected a mistake. They had expected a failure. But the woman had done it perfectly. The gate was open. The visitor was inside. The fort was quiet. No one knew what to say. The young soldier who had laughed earlier looked confused. He looked at the woman. He did not know what to do. He had made a bet in his head. He had expected her to fail. But she had succeeded. He felt something inside him change. He felt the feeling of being wrong. He did not like it. The other soldiers also felt it. They were quiet. They did not laugh. They did not cheer. They did not clap. They just stood there. The officer watched the woman. He saw her calm face. He saw her steady hands. He saw the way she did the job with care. He realized that he had been wrong to doubt her. He realized that she was not someone to be mocked. She was someone to respect. The visitor looked at the woman again. He nodded slightly. He spoke to the officer. "She did well," he said. "She opened the gate properly." The officer nodded. He did not say anything else. He felt proud, but also surprised. The woman stood near the gate, breathing calmly. She did not look proud. She did not look happy. She looked focused. She knew that the job was done, but she also knew that there were more duties to do. She knew that she had not proven herself completely yet. She knew that respect was not given easily. The soldiers slowly moved away from the gate. They went back to their duties, but their minds were different now. They were thinking about what they had seen. They were thinking about the woman's calm strength. They were thinking about their own assumptions. The young soldier who had laughed earlier walked away slowly. He kept looking back at the woman. He did not understand why he felt unsettled. He did not understand why he felt that something had changed inside him. The day continued. The sun began to set. The fort became quiet. The soldiers prepared for the night. But the gate remained open. The woman stood near it, still watching, still focused. No one spoke to her. No one laughed at her. The soldiers were quiet, but not because they were afraid. They were quiet because they were thinking. They were quiet because they realized that they had been wrong. The Apache woman had done her job. She had opened the gate. She had done it perfectly, and in that moment, the fort was no longer the same. The soldiers had seen something they did not expect. They had seen strength and skill in a person they had underestimated. The woman did not celebrate. She did not say anything. She simply stood there, ready for the next task. She knew that her work was not finished. She knew that she still had to earn respect. But she also knew that she had taken the first step. The fort was silent now, not because it was empty, but because the soldiers were thinking. They were thinking about the woman. They were thinking about their bet. They were thinking about their own mistakes. And the woman, standing quietly by the gate, knew that she had made a change in the hearts of the soldiers, even if they did not say it out loud. The sun was beginning to move lower in the sky, and the air felt cooler. The fort was calm now. The soldiers had finished their daily tasks, and many of them were resting. Some were cleaning their boots, others were repairing equipment, and a few were talking quietly in small groups. The gate stood open, and the Apache woman remained near it. She had finished the task she was given, but she knew that the day was not over. She had noticed the way the soldiers looked at her after the gate was opened. They were quiet. They did not laugh. They did not tease her anymore. But she also knew that silence could mean many things. It could mean respect. It could mean fear. It could mean anger. She did not know which one it was. She decided not to think about it too much. She had a job to do. She walked slowly to the center of the courtyard where the officer was standing. He was watching the gate and the people moving around. He looked serious, but his eyes seemed different. They looked less sharp, less cold. It was as if he had seen something he did not expect. The Apache woman stood in front of him and waited for his instructions. The officer looked at her and nodded. "You did well," he said, "but your work is not finished. There are other duties. You will follow the rules. You will continue to learn." The woman nodded. She did not speak. She was not trying to impress anyone. She was simply listening and accepting the next task. The officer continued, "Tomorrow, you will be assigned to the guard duty. You will learn how to watch for trouble. You will learn how to listen for the sounds of the fort. You will learn how to protect the gate and the people inside." The woman listened carefully. She was ready. She was not afraid. She knew that guard duty was important. She knew that it was a serious responsibility. She had already shown that she could follow orders. Now she had to prove that she could continue to do so. The officer then turned to the soldiers who had been watching. He spoke loudly, so they could hear. "You will respect her," he said. "She is part of this fort now. Anyone who mocks her will be punished." Some of the soldiers looked surprised. They did not expect the officer to speak like that. They did not expect him to defend her. But they did not argue. They simply nodded. They were not used to being told what to do in this way. The Apache woman walked away from the officer and began to move toward the gate again. She knew that she would have to stand there for a long time. She knew that she would have to be patient. She knew that she would have to be strong. As she walked, she saw the young soldier who had laughed earlier. He was sitting alone, looking at the ground. He did not look happy. He did not look angry. He looked confused. The woman paused for a moment. She did not go to him, but she did not ignore him either. The young soldier looked up and saw her. He stood up slowly and walked toward her. His face was serious. He did not smile. He did not make a joke. He looked like someone who was trying to understand something. He stopped in front of her and spoke quietly. "I was wrong," he said. "I thought you would fail. I thought you would make a mistake. But you did it perfectly." The woman looked at him. She did not show any emotion. She did not say anything right away. She simply waited. The young soldier continued. "I don't know why I thought that. I don't know why I treated you like that. I am sorry." The woman nodded slowly. She did not speak. Her silence was not anger. It was calm. It was the kind of silence that showed she was listening and that she understood. She was not angry at him. She knew that people often judged what they did not understand. The young soldier looked relieved. He nodded and walked away. The woman watched him go. She knew that he was not the only one who felt this way. She knew that many soldiers were thinking about their own behavior. The evening grew darker. The sky turned orange and then purple. The fort became quiet. The soldiers began to prepare for the night. The gates were being closed and secured. The Apache woman watched carefully as the guards worked. She paid attention to every movement. She was learning. She wanted to do her best. Then, a small group of soldiers approached her. They were not the ones who had laughed earlier. They were older and quieter. They had watched her with a different kind of attention. They looked at her not with anger, but with curiosity. One of them spoke. "You opened the gate with care. You did not rush. You did not make a noise. You did it like you knew what you were doing." The woman nodded. She did not say anything. She was not used to people praising her. She had not received much praise in her life. She had learned to keep her feelings inside. She had learned to focus on the task. Another soldier spoke. "Where did you learn to do that? Who taught you?" The woman looked at him. She thought for a moment. Then she said, "My family taught me. We have gates and doors in our homes too. We have to protect them. We have to open them carefully." The soldiers looked at each other. They were surprised. They had not thought about it that way. They had not considered that her skills could come from her home and her culture. They had only thought about her as an outsider. The woman continued, "I have watched. I have learned. I have practiced." The soldiers listened. They did not speak again. They simply watched her with a new kind of respect. The night became darker. The stars appeared in the sky. The fort was quiet. The Apache woman stood near the gate, watching. She was ready to do her duty. She was ready to protect the fort. She was ready to show that she belonged. Inside the fort, the soldiers began to talk quietly about the day. Some of them still felt embarrassed by their behavior. Some of them felt ashamed. Others still did not want to admit they were wrong. But all of them felt something change. The woman had not only opened a gate, she had opened a door inside their minds. She had made them think differently. As the night went on, the woman remained calm. She did not move much. She did not speak much. She simply stood there watching the gate and the fort. She listened to the sounds of the night. She listened to the wind. She listened to the small noises that meant something was happening. She felt a sense of peace. She felt a sense of purpose. She knew that she was doing something important. She knew that she was not just proving herself. She was also teaching others. The next day would bring new challenges. She knew that. She knew that the soldiers might still try to test her. She knew that there might be more jokes. She knew that there might be more doubts. But she also knew that she had changed something. She had shown that she was capable. She had shown that she was strong. She had shown that she belonged. The night passed slowly. The fort stayed quiet. The Apache woman stood near the gate, ready for whatever would come next. And in the silence, she felt the quiet strength inside her grow even stronger. The morning light came again, soft and warm. The fort was waking up slowly. Soldiers stepped outside their rooms, stretched, and began their daily routines. The Apache woman was already awake. She had been watching the gate through the night, and she felt calm. She had learned a lot, and she felt stronger than before. The day was quiet at first, but there was a feeling of tension in the air. The soldiers were still thinking about what happened the day before. They were not talking about it openly, but everyone knew it was there. Some of them were still embarrassed. Some of them were still angry. Some of them were simply unsure. The woman walked toward the gate. She knew that today would be important. She knew that she would face new tests. She knew that the soldiers might try to challenge her again, but she also knew that she was ready. As she reached the gate, she saw a group of soldiers standing nearby. They were talking quietly, and they looked serious. The woman walked closer, and one of the soldiers turned to her. "You opened the gate perfectly yesterday," he said, "but you did not do it alone. You had the officers' help. You had the guards' help." The woman looked at him calmly. "I did it," she said. "I opened the gate." The soldier shook his head. "No," he said, "you had help. You did not do it by yourself." Aha! The woman did not argue. She simply looked at him and nodded. She knew that arguing would not help. She knew that the soldier was trying to find a way to feel better about himself. He was trying to find a way to say that she was not as strong as she seemed. The woman stepped away and continued her work. She did not let his words affect her. She knew that some people would always try to find a reason to doubt her. She knew that she could not control their thoughts. She could only control her own actions. The officer called her again. He was standing near the center of the courtyard watching the soldiers. He looked serious. He looked like a man who had seen many things and had learned to control his emotions. "You will have a new task today," he said. "You will be in charge of the gate for the entire day. You will be responsible for who enters and who leaves. You will watch carefully. You will make sure the fort is safe." The woman nodded. She was ready. She had already proven that she could open the gate. Now she had to show that she could protect it. She had to show that she could watch and listen. She had to show that she could make decisions. The officer continued, "You will also keep a record. You will write down who comes in and who goes out. You will write it clearly. You will not make mistakes." The woman nodded again. She had learned to write, even though it had not been easy. She knew that writing was important. It was a way to show that she was serious and responsible. The soldiers watched her as she walked to the gate. They were quiet. Some of them still looked doubtful. Some of them looked curious. Some of them looked like they were waiting for her to fail. The woman took her position. She stood beside the gate, and she held the record book in her hands. She watched the people who came in and out. She listened to their voices. She watched their faces. She wrote down the names carefully. She wrote down the time. She wrote down the reason. At first, the soldiers were not sure what to do. They had never seen a woman do this job. They had never seen someone like her do it with such calm and care. They watched her, and they began to feel a strange feeling inside. They began to feel respect. A few hours passed. The woman had not made any mistakes. She had written everything clearly. She had not forgotten anything. She had not been slow. She had not been rushed. She had been steady. The soldiers began to realize something. She was not just doing the job. She was doing it well. She was doing it better than some of them had expected. Then a visitor arrived. It was a man who looked important. He wore a uniform that was different from the others. He walked toward the gate with a serious expression. The soldiers watched him closely. They waited to see what would happen. The officer stepped forward and spoke to the visitor. "You may enter," he said. The woman watched carefully. She looked at the visitor. She looked at his face. Ow. She looked at his hands. She looked at his eyes. She watched his body language. She was learning to understand people by watching them. The visitor walked through the gate. The woman wrote down his name. She wrote down the time. She wrote down the reason for his visit. The soldiers watched her. They were impressed. They did not expect her to be so careful. They did not expect her to be so attentive. They did not expect her to be so responsible. The visitor looked at the woman and nodded. He did not say anything. He simply walked inside. But his nod was a sign. It was a sign of respect. The soldiers began to feel the silence again. It was not the same silence as before. It was not a silence of shock. It was a silence of understanding. They were beginning to realize that the woman was not a joke. She was not a mistake. She was not a person to be mocked. She was a person to be respected. The day went on. The woman continued her duty. She continued to watch. She continued to write. She continued to protect the gate. She did not stop. She did not slow down. She did not make any mistakes. The soldiers began to talk quietly among themselves. They were not talking about the woman in a bad way anymore. They were talking about her in a different way. They were talking about how strong she was. They were talking about how calm she was. They were talking about how she did not show fear. One soldier said, "She is not like us." Another soldier replied, "Maybe that is why she is strong." The first soldier thought for a moment. He looked at the woman again. He saw how she stood tall and calm. He saw how she watched the gate with careful eyes. He saw how she wrote in the record book without making a mistake. He nodded slowly. "Maybe," he said. The woman continued her duty until the sun began to set. The day had been long, but she had done it well. She had proven herself again. She had shown that she was capable of more than the soldiers had expected. As the day ended, the officer came to her. He looked at her and nodded. "You did well today," he said. "You are becoming an important part of this fort." The woman nodded. She did not smile. She did not say anything. But she felt something inside her. She felt a sense of pride. She felt a sense of accomplishment. She felt a sense of belonging. The officer then said, "Tomorrow, you will be given a new task. You will continue to learn. You will continue to prove yourself." The woman listened. She was ready. She was not afraid of the future. She knew that there would be more challenges. She knew that there would be more doubts. She knew that some people would still not believe in her. But she also knew something else. She knew that she had already changed something. She had changed the way the soldiers thought. She had changed the way they saw her. She had changed the way they saw themselves. The night came again. The fort became quiet. The soldiers prepared for rest. The gate was closed and secured. The Apache woman stood near the gate, watching one last time before she went to her room. She looked at the soldiers. She looked at the fort. She looked at the gate. She felt calm. She felt strong. She felt ready. She knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she also knew that she would face them with calm strength. And in the quiet night, the fort felt different. The soldiers were no longer laughing. They were no longer mocking. They were thinking. They were learning. And the Apache woman, standing quietly by the gate, knew that her journey was only beginning. The next morning, the fort looked peaceful. The sun rose slowly, and the sky was clear. The soldiers were waking up and preparing for the day. It was the same routine as before, but something felt different. The air was calmer. The soldiers were quieter. They were not talking loudly or laughing like before. It was as if the fort had become more serious. The Apache woman woke up early. She felt ready for whatever would come. She had been doing her duties for several days now. She had opened the gate, watched the gate, and written the records. She had proved herself in many ways, but she knew that proving herself was not finished. She knew that some people still doubted her. She knew that some people still had the old thoughts in their minds. She walked toward the gate. She was dressed in the same simple clothes. She walked calmly, with her head held high. She was not trying to show off. She was not trying to be proud. She was simply doing her duty. As she reached the gate, she saw the soldiers watching her again. This time, the look in their eyes was different. They were not mocking her. They were not laughing. They were watching her with respect. They were watching her like they were watching someone important. One soldier, the young one who had laughed earlier, stood near the gate. He looked at her with a serious expression. He did not smile. He did not make a joke. He simply watched her. The woman noticed him. She looked at him and nodded slightly. It was a small sign of respect. The young soldier nodded back. He did not say anything. He did not need to. His silence said enough. The officer approached the woman and spoke to her. "Today, you will not only be in charge of the gate," he said. "You will also help teach others. You will show them how to do the job correctly." The woman was surprised. She had not expected this. She had not expected to be asked to teach. She had not expected to be given such responsibility, but she was ready. She knew that teaching was a way to show respect. She knew that teaching was a way to change minds. The officer continued, "Some soldiers still doubt your skills. They still think you are not capable. You will show them. You will show them by teaching them how to do the job." The woman nodded. She accepted the task. She knew that it would not be easy. She knew that some soldiers might still be angry, but she also knew that she could do it. The officer called the soldiers together. He spoke to them in a serious voice. "Listen," he said. "The woman has shown great skill. She has proven herself. She will teach you how to do the job properly. You will listen. You will learn. You will respect her." The soldiers looked at each other. Some of them looked unsure. Some of them looked annoyed. But they did not argue. They did not refuse. They knew that the officer was serious. The woman stood in front of the group. She held the record book in her hands. She looked at the soldiers and spoke clearly. "First," she said, "you must watch carefully. You must watch the gate and the people. You must know who is entering and leaving." The soldiers listened. They did not interrupt. They watched her carefully. They were surprised by her calm voice. They were surprised by how clear she spoke. She continued, "Second, you must open the gate slowly. Do not rush. Do not make noise. If you make noise, people will hear. The fort must stay quiet and safe." The soldiers nodded. They were learning. They were beginning to understand. She continued, "Third, you must write the records clearly. You must write the names correctly. You must write the time. You must write the reason. If you do not write clearly, there will be confusion." The soldiers listened carefully. They began to realize that the job was not easy. They began to realize that it required focus, patience, and care. One soldier raised his hand and asked, "How do you know so much?" The woman smiled slightly. She did not laugh. She did not show pride. She simply said, "I learned from my family. I learned from my life. I learned from watching." The soldiers were quiet. They did not know what to say. They had never thought about learning in that way. They had never thought about someone learning from their life and their family. The woman continued to teach them. She showed them how to hold the gate latch. She showed them how to listen for sounds. She showed them how to watch people's faces. She showed them how to write the record book. The soldiers practiced. They tried to open the gate. They tried to write the records. Some of them made mistakes. The woman did not laugh. She did not scold them. She simply corrected them, gently. She showed them the right way. The soldiers began to feel something change inside them. They began to feel respect. They began to feel that the woman was not just a person who had come to the fort. She was someone who had taught them something important. The young soldier who had laughed earlier watched her carefully. He was learning. He was listening. He was thinking. He felt embarrassed by his past behavior. He did not know how to fix it. But he knew that he could change. As the day went on, the soldiers began to accept the woman. They began to treat her differently. They began to speak to her politely. They began to listen when she spoke. They began to work with her. The officer watched everything quietly. He saw how the soldiers were changing. He saw how the woman was teaching. He felt proud. He felt that the fort was becoming better because of her. In the afternoon, the officer called the soldiers together again. He spoke to them in a strong voice. "Today you have learned something," he said. "You have learned that strength is not only one thing. Strength is calmness. Strength is patience. Strength is skill." The soldiers listened. They looked at the woman. They nodded. They understood. The officer continued, "You must remember this. You must remember that people can be strong in different ways. You must remember that respect is earned. You must remember that judging someone without knowing them is wrong." The soldiers nodded again. They were quiet, but their minds were full of thoughts. They had learned something important. They had learned that they had been wrong. The day ended. The sun began to set. The fort became quiet. The soldiers prepared for the night. The gate was closed and secured. The Apache woman stood near the gate. She looked at the soldiers. She looked at the fort. She looked at the sky. She felt calm. She felt proud. She felt that she had done something important. She had not only opened the gate, She had opened the hearts of the soldiers. She had changed their minds. She had taught them a lesson. She knew that the journey was not over. She knew that she would still face challenges. She knew that she would still have to prove herself. But she also knew that she had made a difference. The soldiers had stopped laughing. They had stopped mocking her. They had started to respect her. They had started to learn from her. And the fort was no longer the same. The Apache woman had made the fort go silent, not because she was quiet, but because she had changed everything. In the quiet night, she stood by the gate, ready for whatever would come next. She knew that she had shown the soldiers that strength comes in many forms, and that respect is earned through actions, not words. And in that moment, the fort felt peaceful.